gentlemen, welcome to the 85th episode of Blueshirt Bandwidth. I'm your host, Joe Fortunato, joined occasionally by Chip. Chip, right before we got on the show, openly admitted that his son got him with Updog. And then Chip
like
tried to do it to me
here.
as if I was a young child, and I did not fall for it. And the look on his face was of pure horror as he realized that he was bamboozled by, what is your son, 12?
10.
10?
10.
Yep. Got to give him the back of your hand. Make sure it doesn't do that anymore.
You know who would have fallen for it? Eric would have fallen for it.
Well, Eric 100% would have fallen for it, for sure.
If for no other reason than because of Wolf.
Well, I don't understand the Wolf Pack thing. It's Wolf. The LF is a very clear pronunciation. It's not new. This isn't hard. It has been pointed out to him numerous times. Look, hand up. I was saying Blueshirt's Bandwidth for a long time. As soon as it was thrown in my face, I stopped saying it. Wolf Pack? It's not woof. It's wolf. It's a wolf. A dog woofs. A wolf howls.
I am assuming it's a Grand Rapids thing, like how Canadians say a boot.
Well, I mean, Eric is basically Canadian at this point, isn't he?
Yes. Yes, he is.
The Wolf Pack? What are they? What are those people? Keegan is like a Hartford Wolf Pack insider, and Eric disgraces him every time he says the Wolf Pack.
It's a hard thing.
It's not hard. It's very easy. Wolf.
No, I mean it's a hard thing.
Oh, for Keegan to hear, correct? Just like when your 10-year-old son says, "You know, it smells like Updog in here."
Yeah.
Was that how he got you with "It smells like Updog in here"?
Well, he came in and he made a face as I was cooking him dinner, and he goes, "It smells like Updog in here." I said, "What the hell's Updog?" He goes, "Nothing. Let's hope it's you, dog."
But he got you
and they turned on the heel and walked in.
He got you so hard.
He did. He nailed it.
Man, he did. Good for him. What a champion.
I'm disappointed in myself and proud of him.
That is in the correct order, by the way. You should be very disappointed in yourself. You should be proud of him in a small way.
Yeah. In a big way. Yeah.
Sure, in a big way. I mean, it's a failing of you as a father, I think, really, but we don't have to talk about that right now. We could deal with that at a later date. Welcome to the 85th episode. There are no Rangers to wear 85, so that little piece of housekeeping is taken care of. I will tell you all. Go ahead. Oh, that's right. You had a tie-in. Go on.
I do. I have a very big tie-in. Do you know who was selected with the 28th pick in the 1985 National Hockey League entry draft?
No. How old were you in 1985?
Older than I care to admit.
Do you want to know how old I was in 1985?
You were negative years old.
I was 3 years from being born.
Yeah, great. Fuck you.
So who was picked? Go ahead, do your little thing.
Mike Richter.
Really?
That is correct. Second round, 28th pick.
I don't know if I've ever thought about that. God, that, if nothing else, shows you like the disparity of how many teams were in the NHL back then. Second round, 28th pick. What does the 28th pick have to do with 85?
Nothing.
Oh, 1985. Got it. I'm there. I'm with you now.
That's your Wolfpack moment, Joe.
That's my Wolfpack moment. Or when I thought we were doing episode 73 and it was Matt Rempe and it was really episode 74. Either way, we are here. Thank you all for being here. Thank you all for joining us. Feels like the dog days of summer. It's May. Not great. But guess what? $85 a year gets you all your ad-free access to the New York Rangers at BlueshirtBanter.com. Or if you feel so inclined, BlueshirtBanter.com/BlueshirtBanter. A lot of draft stuff coming up. Chris did his top prospects and where he thought they should be drafted. There is a Blueshirt Banter mock draft that is up there. Tripp has assured us he's going to do another My Trade Proposal Sucks. I wrote a story last week about how important it is for the Rangers to potentially get the second overall pick from San Jose. We will talk about this a little bit later today. There's other prospect information up there. We're really in prospect mode at this point, but join us. You can also spend $40 a year for access to our Discord tier. You can ask questions in our question thread that Eric puts up every single week. not overly populated on this episode. Not completely surprising. The New York Rangers have not played hockey in basically months at this point. So we're here to get you through it. I think there's some things to talk about one way or another, but it is good to be here. Spotify, Apple Podcasts, leave us 5 stars, leave a nice comment, talk about how much you love me, maybe even Chip. Just remember to talk shit about Eric. That's what's really important. And we appreciate you guys being here. So, no Ranger War 85. You did your little 85 tie-in there. We will do the Ombudsman report for episode 84. I'm looking at this for the first time, but I'm glad that the beginning is Charlie saying, I messed up the draft order. In last week's Ombudsman report, I stated, and then he quotes himself, of what he said wrong, which was essentially that the Rangers were guaranteed the 27th overall pick. Let me just say, I looked back on this Ombudsman report last week to confirm this information after Colorado won, to ensure that the data that I was giving the people and the tweet that I made was correct when I said that the Rangers were going to pick, locked in, 27th overall. Well, guess what, ladies and gentlemen? That piece of shit Charlie was wrong. And as Charlie says, what I did not mention is that any team that wins their division and then loses in the first 2 rounds will pick after every other team that loses in the first 2 rounds. When I wrote last week's report, both Vegas and Buffalo were still battling for a spot in the conference finals. Of course, the Golden Knights beat the Ducks to reach the Western Conference final, and the Buffalo Sabres fell in overtime in Game 7 in Montreal. This means that the Sabres will have the final pick of the teams that lost in the first 2 rounds, and the Rangers will hold the 26th pick. Then he says, I would like to apologize to our loyal fans for letting them down. You let me down, you piece of shit. Me. Apologize to me. I am the one that had to go backtrack on Twitter. Action will be taken. I'm just making this clear. I'm not sure what it's going to be yet, but action will be taken. I cannot allow this to stand.
You are the one who does not sign his check.
I do not. You're absolutely correct, Chip. And I would dock his pay if he had any. Episode 84. Although it was not ultimately the Corey Locke episode, he did not do nothing during his short tenure with the Rangers. He played 18 minutes across 3 games during the 29-10 season, going 1 for 7 on faceoffs and registering a +1. Okay, thank you, Charlie. You're on thin ice. Viggo Bjork, right? Snark and Roberto talked about taking Bjork 5th overall, fully acknowledging that drafting him with that pick would be a bit of a reach. In last week's roundtable of what the Rangers should do with the 5th pick, I reviewed who would be available based on 5 leading mock drafts published after the lottery. Here is where they all have Bjork being selected. The Athletic has him 12th, although that's a Corey Pronman selection, which Corey Pronman is not on my list of people that we should be looking at draft information from. ESPN is 11th. The Daily Faceoff is 7th. Bleacher Report is 7th. And The Score is 11th. Benoit Allaire. When discussing the retirement of Rangers goalie coach Benoit Allaire, Eric mentioned that the Rangers have had a litany of backup goaltenders who have been incredibly consistent and have gotten better following their time under Allaire. Evolving Hockey's goalie data only goes back to 2007-2008, and the primary backup for the first few seasons was Steven Valiquette at the end of his career. Let's look at some examples of goalies for whom we've had XGAR per 60 minutes data for before and after being under Allaire's tutelage. Alex Auld, Martin Biron, Antti Rantala, Andre Pavlik, and I believe that's the last one. All 4 of those, are examples of Allaire bringing out the best of these goaltenders. There are charts. You can read it in the Ombudsman report when it goes live tomorrow when you're listening, or today, I guess, when you're listening to this. Then he also says, and I'm not sure if this is in an attempt to make things up to me, Eric also made a pair of errors while naming Ranger backup goaltenders. He said that Cam Talbot came out of Alabama, Birmingham, UAB. UAB does not have a hockey program. Talbot played at the University of Alabama, Huntsville, which had an NCAA Division I program from 1985, Chip. Look at that.
There you go.
Until 2021. Eric also called the aforementioned Andre Pavlik, Oleg Pavlik. Fuck you, Eric. And that concludes the Ombudsman.
Yes, sir.
This is going to be a choose your own adventure type podcast. We're doing it live.
Outstanding.
Where do you want to start? I can give you options if you want.
Yeah, let's do that. Give me some options.
We could talk the conference finals. We can talk about if we've learned anything from the playoffs about the New York Rangers. We can talk about the free agency class that doesn't exist and a topic that I'm very excited to talk about. The absolute cannibalism that is going on in Minnesota right now.
Oh, I think we have to start there.
We'll start with
I
Minnesota.
I I think that there is nothing that makes me happier right now than the salty tears of other fan bases because
So
I've already shed mine.
that's true. I was I was thinking about this morning. Not this is not on the topic of the Minnesota Wild, but the way Buffalo lost this series was a very New York Rangers way of losing the series, which
Oh
is
yeah,
to say they were kind of dead. Montreal had them dead to rights, up 3-1 at home in what I will say has to be one of the top 3 atmospheres in the NHL. The Bell Center is I'm jealous of Montreal in the playoffs.
hmm
Buffalo's down 3-1. They score 7 unanswered goals, if I'm not mistaken, right? They win
something
game
like
6,
that.
8
Yeah,
to
yeah,
3.
yeah.
Come
And
back to
everybody's shitting their
Buffalo,
pants.
down 2-1, tie the game, go to overtime, and lose on a shot that really should be stopped 9 times out of 10. At
Yep.
home, heartbreaking fashion. And it just I was thinking about it, and I was like, God, this is why, I've made the joke before. It's kind of nice that the Rangers aren't in the playoffs. I can kind of enjoy things and relax. I was like, God, that one has to suck. Then I remembered I lived through, granted, it wasn't game 7, a game 5 Stanley Cup winning goal
Yeah.
against my hockey team. So, like, I've already
That shit
seen as
happens.
bad as it can be. So, I was just thinking about the parallels of that. Anyway, Minnesota,
Uh,
go ahead.
yes. I was just thinking that it, the if this is Buffalo's last taste of the playoffs for another decade, my God, that city has gone from what were they? They were skating in the streets to that. Oh well.
Yeah, it is a little depressing. Buffalo is a great hockey town. I've grown a small hatred for them because I've become aware of the fact that there are a significant amount of Buffalo fans that just hate the Rangers for reasons I can't really understand. I don't really think about Buffalo all that often. I guess it's a big brother, little brother thing, the whole Jack Eichel stuff, the billboard, I guess, whatever. Either way, I wasn't necessarily sorry to see them leave the playoffs, but to lose like that sucks. And the
Yes.
one thing about this Buffalo season is it really came out of nowhere, literally came out of nowhere.
hmm
And to your point, can it disappear out of nowhere? So, you know what? We're on this topic. Let's just stick to this topic. It's been an interesting week for this revisionist history for the Rangers. I think there were a lot of
Yeah.
people who really, really wanted the Rangers to hire Chuck. I keep doing that with Knobloch, who wanted to hire Chris Knobloch. He went to the 2 Stanley Cup Finals with Edmonton. I would argue was absolutely unceremoniously fired and punished for something that was not his fault, but he's fired. Lindy Ruff, I was already seeing some, whispers like, granted, not from any credible sources, like, oh, God, the Rangers shouldn't have fired him. Look at him. He's going to the Eastern Conference final. That obviously didn't happen. Jeff Gordon's getting a lot of love these days, as we've discussed.
Is he? I haven't seen that.
I think sometimes it's okay to just admit that like things would be different if they were different, and the Rangers are in a position that they're in, and like you can't map these things out necessarily. Montreal's a great young team. They are very fun. I'm rooting for them against Carolina. I hated every team that made it this far in the East. Don't like Buffalo, hate Philadelphia. I have no love for the Canadians, and I don't like Carolina. The hand wringing that is coming out of these series about Keandre Miller for Carolina, despite the fact that everybody knew this was going to happen, that he was going to get the Carolina bump, and it was just going to be what it was going to be. The Jeff Gordon stuff, the Lindy Ruff stuff. I hate all of them. The good news is Colorado's a fucking wagon, and they're more than likely steamrolling whoever comes out of the East. Montreal's a good, young, fun team. I think it is an absolute win for going outside the box with coaching hires. St. Louis has proven himself to be an absolutely level-headed leader who thinks about the game the right way, is forward-thinking. The Athletic released a thing, I think it's called Athletic Peak or something, where Henrik Lundqvist named the best 3 leaders he ever played with. Number 1 was Jaromir Jagr, number 2 was Matt Sundin, and number 3 was Martin St. Louis. And I would agree with that. I think back about that 2014 season a lot, about, Marty's mother passing away and him scoring the Mother's Day goal and just the comebacks and all these things that has to happen every year, right? For a team to lose. Like you get the privilege to lose in the Stanley Cup final. And I think in a lot of respects, Montreal's kind of setting the bar for, hey, it makes sense. If you draft well, you have a coach who's not completely incompetent, you're probably going to do some fun things.
And you go with a GM who is not a recycled GM guy. He's not a recycled NHL team guy. It worked for Florida. It seems to be working for Montreal. It's smart, and
And look,
not a lot of teams are doing it.
This is fickle. I've said this numerous times on the podcast. 2 years ago, people would have cut off extremities to get Chris Knobloch to be the coach of the New York Rangers.
Or to get Steve Yzerman to be GM.
And that's the big one, because I do truly believe Knobloch is taking the blame for something that truly is not his fault. How anybody can look at that situation and blame anyone other than the general manager, I have no idea. Yzerman is the one that when he left Tampa Bay, I was begging. I would have killed for him to come to the New York Rangers. And now it's very clear that that's just not a tenable situation there either. So I think sometimes it's a careful what you wish for situation. I also think that the Rangers are kind of at a crossroads here. And what they do over the next few months is going to be really, really important. Not breaking news by telling you that. But the other question that I was going to ask you, which we may as well talk about while we're here, I haven't learned anything from these playoffs. Nothing has happened that has led me to believe that the Rangers need to do X, Y, or Z to get better, or there's this team like the Panthers that they need to find a way to match. I haven't seen anything that's led me to, the Rangers got to do this now, because this is it's just put together a good hockey team.
Right. Put together a good hockey team. The only thing you can look at in these playoffs that is glaring that the Rangers don't have a lot of is team speed.
Yep. I was going to say it's speed.
And we all know it. I mean, we didn't need these playoffs to tell us that. It's put together a quality hockey team that can skate up and down the fucking ice for 60 minutes a night. That's it. You got the best goaltender, or one of the best goaltenders in the NHL. You need team speed. That's what cost Tampa Bay in the end. They have a better goaltender. They just weren't fast enough to keep up.
Team speed. If I'm the Rangers, the two things that I desperately want is high-end talent and team speed. Those are the two things I want. If I can get them both together, great. But those are the things that I really need. And the Rangers are lacking both of them in spades. So you got to do something about that. Now, this returns me to the other topic that we were going to start with, which is there's an implosion happening in Minnesota that I'm really loving.
Yeah,
the Kaprizov discourse that he's making too much money. He's not a $17 million player. Bill Guerin, made all these moves and took all these risks to get Quinn Hughes. He's not signed long-term. Maybe he doesn't want to be here for this. I'm eating up all of this because the best case scenario for the Rangers is Bill Guerin turns around and goes, all right, Colorado beat the shit out of us. We literally could not stop them on the power play. They crushed us down the middle. Who is available in the free agent market to solidify those problems? No one. Great. Who is available on the trade market that solidifies those problems? I'm putting quotations around that there because Vincent Trocheck, come on down. Now, Arthur Staple, I believe, reported on he has a new podcast, I think, that Yurov was the holdup in a Vincent Trocheck trade, which means that the Rangers were asking for Yurov, which we all expected them to be. And that Chris Drury stood on business. Chip, in your mind, how much pressure should Bill Guerin feel that if he has to overpay for Trocheck, he's bringing in a guy from Team USA who won a gold medal with Quinn Hughes. All we've heard about is how much that team gelled, how much those guys like each other, how much they were a family. Does any of that play into this discourse for you?
Yeah, and he should be under a lot of pressure. I think it was today. There were clips of Guerin on Twitter, saying that nobody's untouchable. Well, that should have been your fucking take a couple of months ago, because we all saw this coming, that you did not have enough depth. And if you thought Michael McCarron was going to be your answer to center depth, that's on you, ass. Um, yeah, by the way, it's not just Quinn Hughes. There's a lot of Team USA on Minnesota. Vincent Trocheck would be a perfect fit for them. He's not a 1-2 center. Okay. But if the ask at the deadline was Yurov, Strammel, and the 2028 first, and Bill Guerin turns around to Drury and says, you know what? I'll do it now. Sign me up. I am good with that. And I think Guerin should do it. Like you said, he's only got this until he's signed. We've only got this year with Quinn Hughes. So you got to make it work, or else you got nothing. I'm sorry. They don't have a deep prospect pool. They don't have the depth they can't let Quinn Hughes go for nothing if he's not going to sign,
This is
unless
last year.
I think this is going to be his last year, the coming year.
So he's a
think so.
UFA this coming summer, a year from now.
A year from now, I believe he's a UFA.
Let's just, while you talk, I'm going to look this up so
Yeah.
we don't get charlied.
Yeah. But look, you can't, it's the same thing that, people got on, and I know I'm going into a dangerous territory with you because I'm about to make a baseball analogy. When the Yankees brought in Juan Soto as an impending free agent, there were a lot of opportunities for them to fortify their rotation by trading for Corbin Burns or Dylan Cease, and they didn't do it. And then they lost in the World Series. Soto left, and that might have been the best team for them to win a World Series with. And Brian Cashman took a lot of shit, rightfully so, for making that one big move and then saying, "That's it, I'm done. I'm not going all in to win with this generational talent that I have here. I'm just gonna see what I do, see what it can do." And I think that's what Bill Guerin did. And you know, I think it was an interview with Emily Kaplan where he said, "Oh, ha ha ha! I hoped I would get a Team USA discount from Drury on Trocheck." I don't think he was joking. I think he was legitimately shocked that Chris Drury would not just roll over for him and show him his belly and give him Vincent Trocheck for whatever he wanted.
So can I pull a zag here and defend Bill Guerin for a second?
By all means.
You're correct, by the way. Quinn Hughes is a UFA at the end of this coming year. If I'm Bill Guerin, I am absolutely staring Drury in the face until the end of that deadline. And I'm letting him make the panic decision. Because if you're Bill Guerin in that moment, the way I'm assuming he was thinking about it was Drury needs this a lot more than I do. We have a very good team that can win. And if I really need to, I can pay to get Trocheck over the summer, assuming he's not traded, right? But by all indications, the two sides were talking pretty deep into the trade deadline. I had to assume that Bill Guerin was well aware that he was one of the finalists. So based on Drury's track record of occasionally rolling over and making bad decisions, I absolutely would have played that game as well if I was Bill Guerin. The problem you have, which is the point that you just brought up, you no longer have a ton of runway. You have 12 months to convince Quinn Hughes to stay. My understanding is, I think I shouldn't even take a guess at this. I don't remember the rule off the top of my head of like when a guy can sign an extension if it's January 1st or whatever it is. You have an opportunity this year to sign Quinn Hughes to a long-term extension. you probably feel like you really need to do that. One of the ways to do that would be to get him to have a shitload of fun playing in Minnesota, which he might be doing anyway, but he
Mm-hmm.
wants to win. He's here to win. Vincent Trocheck genuinely solves a lot of problems that Minnesota has. And we have talked about this. There are no free agents on the open market. Zero. If you want, and you are a subscriber to The Athletic, they released a story today, I believe, of like one free agent for every team to sign. That list is disgustingly bare. Vincent Trocheck, I genuinely think, would make $8 or $9 million on the open market this year, if not more, if he was a UFA. He's making under $6 million. Signed for 3 more years. It is an absolute no-brainer. Now, that's me saying this, right? It's very easy for me to be like, hey, Bill Guerin, get rid of Yurov, who's one of your best young players, to bring in Vincent Trocheck. But you know what? Sometimes those are the things that you need to do to win now. And if I'm Minnesota, and I don't even mean this as a joke, I feel pretty good about my chances in the West. You beat a pretty fucking good hockey team in Dallas. You got steamrolled by Colorado. Okay, it happens. You have a choice. You can either continue to get steamrolled by Colorado, or you can make a move to maybe try to get yourself into a position where you can be a little bit better. And it also helps that Yurov was the scapegoat for at least one of those games, and Bill Guerin has never made a roster decision based on tournament play on a single event.
Never.
Ever. Never in his life.
Not once.
So I just assume that this is one of the things that's going to really, I would have to think the two sides are talking. There's no reason not to. I heard the Bill Guerin thing the same way that you did, that he thought he was going to get this discount, and good for Drury for sticking to his guns. He really didn't have a choice. We talked about this ad nauseum. Could not fuck that trade up. And while everybody was losing their minds and pulling their hair out of their head, and people were screaming like, oh, he fucked up the Panarin trade, even though we're just going to forget the Panarin had a full no movement clause, and now he fucked up the Vincent Trocheck trade. Our argument, and my argument specifically, was I don't think Vincent Trocheck loses value this summer. He may not gain value, but he's not going to lose value. And now it feels like he is absolutely one of the most desirable available players out there. Now, Drury can still fuck this up. Don't get me wrong.
Yes.
I'm not sitting here defending the man.
Yeah.
But I am defending this decision. This was a very smart decision to hold, and you don't have to trade him. Now you especially don't have to trade him if nothing happens over the summer. I think it would be weird. My bet is he's traded, but you don't have to, and Drury already pulled that trigger once. He stared Bill Guerin down.
Yeah, and I know there was some talk that they might go after Robert Thomas. I just looked at their prospect list on the Athletic that Wheeler did. They don't have the ammo to go get Robert Thomas. They don't have the ammo to get anybody from Matchbox 20, let alone Robert Thomas.
I love Matchbox 20, by the way.
Yeah, I've been waiting a long time to make that fun, almost as long as I have about the sup dog comment. But yeah, they could get Vincent Trocheck. Drury could actually make it easier for them to get Vincent Trocheck. He can use a retention slot, make Vincent Trocheck a $2.5 million player. I mean, that would be phenomenal. You're right.
It would be, but just to put a finer point on that, if I'm eating salary for 3 years, which you would need to be doing to retain salary on Trocheck for Minnesota, I'm getting every drop of what I want out of that trade.
Yeah, and what I want is your off. If I have to eat the retention slot for 3 years, if that's what pushes Guerin over the top to give me your off, done.
Yeah, I agree.
Done.
I do it all day. Let's play this out for a minute, just as optimistically as possible. Let's pretend everything goes exactly the way the New York Rangers want it to.
Yes.
The Rangers get Yurov back and Charlie Stramel and a first-round pick from Minnesota for Trocheck. The Rangers managed to trade some combination of Braden Schneider, the fifth overall pick, and Adam Edstrom or Brett Berard or whatever, to San Jose for the second overall pick, and they take Stenberg.
Beautiful.
Do you think that puts the Rangers in a different class of contention? And I mean contention in the barest form of contention. Like, is that a playoff team? You got to do something with the defense at that point, unless you're relying on Vincent Iorio or Scott Morrow. In the article from The Athletic, I think it was that did all the pending or the UFAs. I think Vince was the one that penned it for the Rangers. I don't even remember who he picked. It wasn't a defenseman, but he mentioned, or maybe it actually was a defenseman, I think. Talked about the fact that the Rangers do need somebody on the back end. Now, counterpoint, and he makes this point as well. The Rangers need a guy who can actually move the puck there, which is why it's so weird that they never really gave Scott Morrow the chance. But like,
Correct.
you'd have to fix something there. But that to me, if you could come away with Yurov, Stramel, everybody's forgotten the fact that Liam Greentree exists. And I do think he will be at least a cup of coffee player in the NHL next year, if not more. Not telling you he's going to score 40 goals, but he's not a nothing prospect the way that it was framed because of the Panarin deal. It's absolutely ridiculous. You do have young talent coming up. It's just, I'm not getting into the rebuild, retool timeline because that's not an indicator of success as far as I'm concerned. I think we need to be very realistic about what the Rangers are and are not. But that to me would give me a much better sense of security that the Rangers have these younger players that are going to come up and play in the NHL next year or the year after. Got to nail whoever they pick. And if it's second overall and they get, Stenberg, obviously that's a different story. That's a guy that's probably coming up next year anyway. But how much better do you feel about things if everything breaks like that for the Rangers?
Yeah, if I'm going into next season with a top nine that's Perreault, Mika, Lafreniere, Stenberg, Yurov, Will Cooley on the right side, and then my third line is Cartier, uh, Miller, and we'll call it Connor Sheary for now. That's a representative top nine. The player that Vince has the Rangers signing is Mario Ferraro, which doesn't really help if you look at it from a need perspective.
It was a defenseman. All right, just making sure I wasn't crazy.
He is a defenseman, but he's on the left side, and if you're moving Schneider, you're going to need right side help.
Well, there's a Will Borgen conversation to be had here too.
There is a Will Borgen conversation to be had.
In order of priority, from a timing perspective, not a return perspective, you would think a potential Schneider San Jose trade would be first just because it's revolving around the draft.
Yes, correct.
Versus a Vincent Trocheck trade that can be, consummated really whenever the Rangers would need it to be. Although if there's a framework there where Bill Guerin's going to give in and him and Drury have already had conversations and he's like, fine, you can have Yurov, you can have Stramel in the first, whatever. No reason to hold that one up, obviously. But I do think that I don't see, and I said this last year, so take this with a grain of salt. I do think things are going to be really interesting from like the second week of June until free agency. Because there are so many things that theoretically, quote unquote, have to happen in that time period.
The other thing about moving the time frame up on a Trocheck deal is I could see there being teams dangling, first round picks in this draft for Trocheck. So if Guerin wants him, he might have to do it before the draft because, I said to you you and Eric on our text thread, at 9, Florida's not taking someone who impacts their roster this year. So if the Rangers pay down 50% of Trocheck's money and take back some other money to make it cap neutral, does Florida send the 9th overall pick to the Rangers? I don't know. It would be interesting as hell if they would.
You do start getting into some pretty interesting territory when you look at that. Florida's an interesting case simply because if you ask Paul Maurice, they're contending next year. It's not even he thinks this year was derailed by injuries, and this is absolutely we're going to fix this next year. We're coming again. Here we go. I don't necessarily disagree with him, to be completely honest with you. I think they had a ton of injury. Barkov and Tkachuk are just you're not making that up, quite frankly. So your argument there is interesting in that, hey, you're not going to use this guy in the window that you have. You gave Brad Marchand a 6-year deal, right? You kind of are in a win now window. We'll take the prospects. You can take the player. And this is the other piece of the Vincent Trocheck situation. There does feel like, because of the just absolute lack of prospects, lack of players on the UFA market, that Trocheck is going to be a much hotter commodity. I could see Detroit being interested in him. We obviously have the connections to Minnesota. To your point, is there something that Florida maybe wants to work out there, especially if the Rangers are eating salary? There are probably more teams than you might think that may be interested in kicking the tires around. Carolina was there at some point at the end of last year. Maybe they have a really bad showing here against Montreal. Is it possible that Jeff Gordon wants, Vincent Trocheck on his team to kind of shore things up? Salary retention gets really interesting with Trocheck because with the cap rising, most teams could swallow Trocheck, even the teams that are really hemmed in by the cap right now. To get him for under $3 million for the next 3 years, that's a really big ace in the hole for Chris Drury here. And he's got to use it correctly. And when we're talking about contention windows and kind of where the New York Rangers are from a timeline, Trocheck doesn't fit this timeline. To be clear, neither does Miller or Zibanejad, but the two of them have full no movement clauses as of right now in the case of Miller. So they're not going anywhere. So you kind of got to take your shots where you can get them. The only guys that are really discussed are Trocheck and Schneider. Sorry, I completely blanked out there. And then the other player you can maybe talk about is Borgen or Lafreniere, which is kind of resurfaced a little bit as well. I think the fourth period reported that the Rangers were taking offers on Lafreniere. You had the right of it when you responded. I think it was you on X, which is like, yeah, the Rangers should be listening to offers on everyone. But I think we've all come to the agreement that you cannot trade Lafreniere for nothing, basically, at this point. We're no longer looking at change of scenery trades. We're no looking at Shane Wright for Alexi Lafreniere. I think the way Lafreniere finished the season without Artemi Panarin, and this is, I want to be clear, the Artemi Panarin was holding Lafreniere back is a tongue-in-cheek comment that has some truth to it, but not in the way that you're thinking. It's not that Lafreniere is a better player than Panarin and Panarin was taking time away from him. It's that Panarin was a better player than Lafreniere and was taking away these vital minutes on the first line in the first power play unit. And when Lafreniere was giving them consistently, guess what he did with them? Really good things. Mm-hmm. And I think we have an appreciation now of a guy who, even if he's just a 60-point player with great two-way game, and granted 60 points would be a career high for him at this point, like that, there's a real value there that you just don't need to get rid of. So I'm not sure I see a Lafreniere trade materializing this year the way that I thought it could happen last year. But outside of Trocheck and Schneider, and maybe Borgen, who also has a no movement clause that turns into a limited no trade this summer, or is it next summer?
Limited this summer. It turns into a limited no trade.
What, how many defensemen are you going to jettison? It's very clear Sullivan does not have a ton of love for Iorio or Morrow. So it's not like you have a player in the wing that you can bring up.
I'll even give you another team that could be an interesting partner for Trocheck. What about the Devils? They're picking at 12.
Blockbuster, New Jersey Devils, New York Rangers trade.
Yeah. It's an interesting situation that New Jersey's in. It kind of mirrors what Guerin's in with Minnesota in a lot of ways to me. So I could see them being a little desperate.
I could see them being interested for all the reasons in Trocheck, I should say, for all the reasons that Minnesota would be, in that the Devils, Tom Fitzgerald basically fractured the locker room for nothing. Didn't get Quinn Hughes, lost his job because of it. And now you're looking at Minnesota. Quinn Hughes has not signed an extension yet. The fan base is cannibalizing themselves over Kaprizov making $17 million. He's not a $17 million player. They lost in really embarrassing fashion to Colorado. That's a tough way to lose a series. Bill Guerin's trying to do everything he can to keep Hughes. They obviously had this Olympic connection that did not exist when he first got him onto the team because they hadn't played the Olympics yet. But you're right. If I'm the Devils, I'm looking at that and thinking to myself, is there something I can do aside from having his two brothers on the team, which I don't think is as big of a deal as people made
No.
it out to be. I think he really just wanted to be on the East Coast more than anything else. Not saying he doesn't want to play with his brothers. Can we get Vincent Trocheck and make it like, hey, let's bring the, USA boys back together? Jack Hughes is here, Quinn Hughes, Vincent Trocheck. Come on and see. Historically, the Rangers and the Devils don't make trades with one another. So I don't necessarily see that happening, but Quinn Hughes is him. Let's just be very clear. That is a game-breaking, life-altering, elite defenseman that can absolutely change the trajectory of a hockey club. And for a team like Minnesota that paid a shitload of assets to bring him in the door, and I will give, again, Bill Guerin some credit for having the balls to even do that in the first place. You have to feel that vice clamping down on them that, holy shit, I need to make sure we're not losing this guy for nothing. You could always do a Carolina, right? Trade the guy, you got, and obviously that would not be on even remotely the timeline that Carolina was in, where, he played 13 games for Carolina. But I don't know. I do think this is an interesting situation. And to your point, if Chris Drury can even flick the water and make Bill Guerin think that there's competition out there for Trocheck, how quickly does he react to that?
Yeah, well, I mean, we saw, I think it was leaked probably from Minnesota that they were kicking the tires on Dylan Larkin and they were offering up, Jesper Wallstedt, which makes no sense whatsoever because if any team needs goaltending, it's not Detroit. So I think that was probably a strategic leak there to say we have other options besides Vincent Trocheck. You don't. Charlie Coyle's not on the market anymore, and he was a pale imitation. Like I said, you're not getting Robert Thomas. You have you are hemmed in if you're Bill Guerin. It is either you stick with what you've got or you pony up for Vincent Trocheck at this point.
Not a bad place for the Rangers to be in.
Not a bad place.
Let's flip over to some
And
draft stuff.
yeah,
Things have been
yes.
sneaking out a little bit. Braden Schneider, second over. Or I keep doing that. I have to stop doing that. The Braden Schneider, fifth overall pick, Adam Edstrom / Brett Berard has made the rounds. I feel very proud of
Yes.
myself. Not very often that I get a rumor out into the universe like that. It definitely feels like I'm getting angrier by the day the Rangers fell to fifth, because the new conversations going on around the draft is that San Jose is going to take Chase Reed at 2, which guarantees one of Malhotra or Stenberg is going to be available at 4. And all indications are that Chicago wants a forward because they want to be able to pair someone up with Connor Bedard. And the Rangers are now sitting right outside where they would need to be to get one of those impact forwards. Now, Chase Carles, what's his first name? Carson Carles
Carson Carles. Yeah.
would
Chase
not
Reed,
be
Carson Carles.
would not be a bad pick for the New York Rangers at all. A all around, I've seen comparisons to Ryan McDonough type defenseman who had a shitload of offense this year in juniors, plays a nasty physical game type of guy. I've talked to a few prospect people, including some that I really trust, who have told me that there are players that are going to be drafted between, he was saying 3 and 7. I think that probably changes a little bit now just because of the way that things are working out. But some of those defensemen could be some of the best players in the draft. Carles definitely, I have a couple of people who are telling me Carles might be the best defenseman in the draft over Reed, even though he's not getting the hype. Not a bad pick for the Rangers to make it all. As I said last week, the Rangers are not good enough, and their farm system is not deep enough to be picky with prospects. They have to take the best player available, regardless of who that player is and what position they play. So none of this is a shot at, oh my God, the Rangers have to pick a defenseman. Oh my God, what are they going to do? However, I think everybody knows they would much rather have their hands on a forward rather than a defenseman. So I wrote an article about it, Chip. I will now ask you, how much of a priority do you think it is for the Rangers to really try to force their way into that pick? The second overall pick, I mean, because
Yeah,
Colorado, Chicago's not trading with them at 4. There's absolutely no reason for them to do that. And Vancouver's absolutely not trading with them at 3.
no. And and if Vancouver replaces Adam Foote with Manny Malhotra, that just seals the deal for Caleb to be drafted third
Correct.
overall.
And
Uh,
that family connection in and of itself, and with the way that Malhotra's risen up through the draft boards, that's probably happening anyway.
right. I think that the Reed stuff to San Jose is a lot of smoke. I think Mike Greer takes the best available player as well. That being said, I mean,
Does he? Does he take a
I think
forward at
so.
2? He doesn't need one.
He doesn't need one, but you know what? You look, if you can pair, Michael Misa, like this is the point of the Adam Fox trade that I put on that I sent to you guys for last week's podcast. If you can pair Michael Misa with Ivor Stenberg, isn't that awesome?
Yeah, of course it's awesome.
So sure. So you've got Celebrini paired with, um, Will Smith and Eklund on the first line. Doesn't mean you don't want Misa paired with Stenberg on the second. So I think that Greer would, if someone makes him a Godfather offer that truly helps him,
An offer you can't
I think
refuse.
exactly. I'm glad you got the movie reference. Um,
I've actually seen that movie.
but also I think that if Greer can come away from this draft with with Schneider and Carles by trading the second by trading back, I think he'd be okay with that.
It's look, it's difficult to make sense of a trade for an opposing team when you have a skin in the game, right?
Right.
Like, if you're a San Jose Sharks fan and you're listening to this and you're ripping your head, your hair out of your head, and you're like, these guys are fucking idiots. There's no reason why we would ever do this. I don't blame you. Like, I'm coming at this from a perception where I have a skin in the game, which is I want that second overall pick because I want one of those forwards, those needle moving forwards. But logically, if Braden Schneider has the trade value that it appears he may actually have, I wrote about this in my column. It's one of the rare circumstances where I actually think Rangers fans are undervaluing their player. He was asked for in the JT Miller trade. Other teams have asked for him before. The Rangers are not. They've made it seem like he's untouchable. Now, the way that they treat him shows you and I that he's not untouchable. I think the metrics, even when he was forced into top 4 situations, which, by the way, the team didn't necessarily want to give him either,
Right.
doesn't bode well for what I think Braden Schneider is going to be. But on the surface, he is a 24-year-old right-handed defenseman who is under team control. I could understand the logic of Greer saying, I want a defenseman in this year's draft over a forward. That defenseman is not going to be able to help me this year regardless. We are a team that came this close to making the playoffs this year. We have a guy who's going to be the face of the league in 2 years, if he's not already in some respects. Yeah, fuck it. Let's take Schneider. We'll take the worst of the 2 defensemen. We'd rather have, this is just by all indications, they'd rather have Reed than, Verhoff or Carles. You're going to have to take one of the other 2 guys, but you're getting Braden Schneider today. So you're moving back 3 spots in the draft. You're getting a comparable defenseman, and you're getting a guy who slots in right now who has a slew of playoff experience, who's played in big game moments for Madison Square Garden, who can actually probably be a leader in that room, that plays this nasty edge of a game, who, by the way, was playing hurt for 2 fucking years.
Who Greer knows also, because Greer was in the Rangers system when Schneider was drafted.
Yeah, so I do see there being actual logic here. And for the Rangers, They're probably looking to get out of the Schneider business regardless. And they can turn around and say, yeah, all right, you could take him. We'll figure out the back end. Right now, our need is at forward. You have something we want. We have something you want. Let's just do this and get it over with.
Sure.
So I
And
get it. I understand if people are like, well, obviously you would think that. You want the Rangers to make the trade. It's like saying the
yes,
Rangers should trade Matt Rempe for, Connor McDavid. Here's all the reasons that makes sense. This is legitimately one where that skeletal framework genuinely makes sense. Whether it
it does.
happens or not, I don't know. It is very rare that that level of pick is traded, even if though you're only falling back 3 places in the draft. Like, people don't trade the second overall pick very often. They just don't. But
And look,
there is logic there.
and just to play devil's advocate on the Schneider trade value piece of it, how much does it help Schneider's trade value to see Keandre Miller playing better away from the Rangers? A
The
lot, right?
best thing the
Even though,
Rangers have going for them is they fucking sucked the past 2 years. And the same way that we talked ourselves into that with like Cartier, right? Where it's like, hey,
yeah,
this guy, didn't play well, or Will Borgen or
hmm
Carson Soucy. There's
hmm
no reason other teams won't do that. And by the way, Schneider's 24 and a right-handed defenseman.
and Schneider's 24 and right-handed. And even though you and I and logical fans understand that Carolina's system makes everybody look really good who plays defense, there are people who are going to look at it and go, look, Keandre Miller is a legit first pair defenseman now that he's out of New York. Imagine what we can do with Braden Schneider. I
Yeah.
don't necessarily blame them. I
No.
don't thinking that way. And I truly hope that it works out that way. I saw someone post on Twitter that Schneider should get a 7x7
I
deal.
saw this. I don't know where this came from. That if
It was a Bruins fan who posted it. And my response to that was, honest to God, if you are representative of Boston and the Bruins are actually think that Schneider's worth 7 years and $7 million, I will drive him to Boston today for a draft pick and some prospecty goodness.
this is what I'm talking about, like the perception of Schneider is much different than what we've seen from him.
hmm
It's very strange. This usually doesn't happen like this. He's been scuttlebutted in a plethora of trades over the past 2 years. And the Rangers have consistently outlined publicly he is untouchable. There is nothing you can do that will get you this player. The Rangers desperately wanted JT Miller as a culture changer. They refused to trade Braden Schneider. That trade was held up with that. Chris Drury stuck to his guns. Teams kept asking. He was kind of on the trade block last year. Not really. Nobody really thought he was going to get traded at the trade deadline. They always thought it was going to be this summer. And he's under team control. He's an
The
RFA.
bizarre thing, the bizarre thing about it is for as many times, and we've talked about this before, for as many times as the Rangers have said, Braden Schneider is an integral part of our team. They have never once treated him that way.
Never.
They traded Jacob Trouba, and days later went out and brought in Will Borgen and signed him to a 5-year deal to block Braden Schneider.
At every turn, the Rangers have had an opportunity to treat Braden Schneider the way they talk about him publicly. And at every turn, save for the Adam Fox injury this year, they've been like, yeah, you're not ready. So it's clear to me he's not really part of the plans. But he has a lot. Like, look, he could go to San Jose and truly flourish. So if
Mhm.
you're listening to this, Greer, make the trade because he wouldn't have to defend as much. The team is much better offensively. He's not hemmed in his own zone. Yeah, maybe it works. Maybe, I don't know.
You know what? If I'm Mike Greer, I make the trade and then I go and I sign Jacob Trouba.
Troop has become a little bit of a hot commodity. He was on a couple of those athletic.
Yes, he is. It's quick. It's amazing how quickly people forget.
It really is. I mean, listen, all the best. I hope he gets the bag, does whatever he needs to do.
I I think he gets he gets at least a 4-year deal worth at least $5 million a year.
Well, for sure. I mean, look, we've talked about this before. Trouba, we don't have to rehash it, but Trouba was an absolute victim of the flat cap. And I was having a conversation today about Igor Shesterkin and, you know, the you can't pay him this much money crowd and like whatever. I think we all need to recognize that superstars in the NHL are going to start making 17 to $20 million a year. Kaprizov is just the start. And guys like Shesterkin, who's making 11.5, you're not even going to think twice about as the cap goes up. I think we are treating some things as though the cap is never going up again. Kaprizov is just the beginning. Connor McDavid could have gotten $20 million. He decided to be an idiot and then got burned for it. And then like stabbed a knife in the back of Knobloch, which wasn't cool.
Yes, he did.
For
That's
no
fucked up.
reason. Like there how is that who he's mad at? I just don't that whole thing. I wish I could get Knobloch on the show and just like inject him with truth serum. I just need to know what happened. Because he was brought to Edmonton specifically because he was Connor McDavid's coach in juniors.
Yeah. The two, to back up real quick on the salaries, I think with the cap rising, what fans need to do is look at percentage of cap
Correct.
as opposed to the raw number. So, in the next 2 years, you're going to see a player make $6 million, but it will be the same percentage of the cap that a player of that level made this year. You just have to, do that as opposed to looking at the raw numbers and saying, I can't believe they paid this guy $6 million. 2 years ago, this was a $2 million player. So that's the first thing. The Edmonton thing is so bizarre. And I touched on this with my column about McDavid. Like, if you're McDavid, how are you mad at anybody but yourself? This was a business decision that you made. You said you were going to take the 2-year deal because that way you get the second bite at the apple in 2 years with the cap hitting a higher number. Okay, that's fine. But you knew who you were signing on with. You were signing on with a GM who thought it was a good idea to sign Trent Frederick to an 8-year deal with no movement clauses.
But that's like, wouldn't you have a plan? Wouldn't you go into
Yeah.
their office and be like, hey, I'm going to sign this 2-year contract extension for a flat raise or no raise, I should say, which is
No
how
raise.
every single employee review goes at Blueshirt Bandwidth. I'll tell you that. I want to know what you're doing with the money before I do this.
Right.
There's no way
Giving it to
Tristan
Tristan
Jarry
Jarry.
was on the list of like, oh yeah, that'll make it better. What are you saying?
It was a stupid ass decision by McDavid.
I just don't understand how you don't have that conversation before you do it.
Yeah.
You're negotiating the deal with the general manager. I understand you having loyalty. I understand you wanting to do the right thing by the fan base. You feel like you owe it to the franchise. Trust me, I understand. On the surface, I think it is a noble thing that he did. I think it's stupid, but it's noble. I don't understand how he did that without some type of an assurance that he was going to get what he wanted out of it. And if they said to him, we're going to trade for Tristan Jarry, and he was like, great, I'm signing on, he deserves everything that he got. I just blaming Chris Knobloch for that. I do not understand. I really don't. I don't get it. And like, by the way, sans the owner, Connor McDavid can get whoever he wants hired or fired in McDavid the next 2 years.
Yep. And by the way, it is not on Chris Knobloch that Jake Wallman completely evaporated as a player, who also got a $7-year extension from this GM. It is not on Chris. They did bring Paul Coffey back at some point to try to fix the defense because he was not with the team when the season started. Didn't help. So
they have no goaltending. This is the problem. This is the other piece that I don't mean to keep going back to this because it's not worth having the conversation again, but the Igor Shesterkin stuff. Edmonton and the Rangers are the inverse of one another.
Mm-hmm.
Both of them have superstar players. Obviously, Connor McDavid is on a completely different level than Igor Shesterkin. But both of them are, in Connor McDavid's case, the best player. In Igor Shesterkin's case, one of the best players, if not the best player at their position. The Rangers don't have an ability to build a team outside of Igor Shesterkin being an elite goaltender who saves their ass time and time again, not because of money, because there's no talent for them to acquire. They're just not
Mm-hmm.
built that way. Edmonton, it keeps trying to build this team that works with these elite forwards in Draisaitl and McDavid and no goaltending. And I would make the argument that Edmonton's in a much better position than the Rangers in that if you get an average fucking goaltender, just an average goaltender, you're ahead of the game. Instead, you're swapping deck chairs out on the Titanic.
And now they're looking at Jordan Binnington again.
How is
that helpful? Like you're just doubling down on stupid. I don't get it. Again,
it's making Chip angry.
it is. Well,
listen, he may come to the Rangers
again,
in 2 years. So by all means, Edmonton, keep fucking up. This is totally fine.
Yes.
Hire Craig Berube, please. Like, seriously, just truly go as Toronto as you can. As Toronto finds new ways to implode themselves.
Yeah.
Just go full Toronto. God. Totally fine.
My trolling of Toronto has me so conflicted right now because as much as you guys know I dislike Torts, I'm dying for Mitch Marner to win the Conn Smythe and do a victory lap throughout the entire city of Toronto with the Stanley Cup.
By the way, both of those things can happen. I am so team Torts. I don't know. We talked about this briefly, you and I.
Yeah.
I love John Tortorella. I think he is a very good hockey coach. I think he should be commended for kind of reinventing himself time and time again. I think he absolutely fucked up his time with the Rangers and abandoned the safe as death mentality that won him his only Stanley Cup. I don't understand why that happened. I want him nowhere near my hockey team, but I need him in the league. And him coming in as an interim head coach who's just like basically week to week with the Vegas Golden Knights, I would argue at this point is absolutely getting signed by them. He's gone to the Western Conference Final. There's no way that's not happening. Even if they lose to Colorado, it's fucking Colorado. Like, what are you going to do? Like, he's there. I would love for Vegas to win. I would love for Tortorella to get another ring, and I would love for Mitch Marner to do right now the leader in points in the playoffs.
That is correct.
Look at that too, Matthews. You know, you and McDavid can both come to the Rangers in 2 years. You should think about that.
By the way, did you see that Vegas keeps denying people the opportunity to talk to Cassidy about their coaching vacancies?
That they stopped them?
Yeah.
That they didn't grant permission, you're saying?
They have not granted permission. And there was a thing, I guess the coaches, it's not a union, but it's like the Professional Association of Coaches. It put out a statement about it because there are teams that keep going to Vegas and saying, do we have permission to talk to Cassidy? And they're like, no. Nope.
It's funny you bring this up because I was also going to talk about the fact that Tortorella in Vegas were mad that I think the Nick Nurse suspension, right? And Tortorella just didn't do a press conference and got fined $100,000 in a second round pick.
The McNabb one.
Yeah, McNabb, sorry. Yeah. Nurse is on Edmonton, right? I'm in an Edmonton phase, space of mind.
Darnell Nurse, not Nick Nurse.
Yeah, well, I got everything there wrong. Charlie, you don't have to put that in the Ombudsman report because it was corrected on the episode, you piece of shit. But like, go ahead. You were going to say, by the way?
I was just going to say Nick Nurse is an NBA coach.
Oh, maybe that's, I have been listening to a lot of Simmons, so maybe that's where I got it from. Anyway, it's just impressive to me. Oh, Jesus, I just lost my entire train of thought. What were we talking about before we got to this point?
Cassidy, Vegas.
Oh, it's impressive to me that Vegas is doing this. I'm actually surprised this has not happened before. And like, here's the deal. Just to make sure that everybody's aware. Let's say Cassidy was making $1 million with Vegas, okay? He's owed that money by Vegas. If another team wants to hire him and they only offer him $500,000 as a salary, Vegas has to make up whatever the number is to get him to his salary. So they have to pay 500. The other team has to pay 500 while we're, using round numbers. So it's actually costing Vegas money to do this because it does feel like he is a hot commodity and would get hired. And Vegas could potentially be completely off the hook with him and not have to pay him anything. But I also understand their point of view of this guy was deeply integrated into this team. Stanley Cup winner with the team, if I'm not mistaken, correct?
Yep. Knows where the bodies
Knows
are
the
buried.
in and outs, knows where the bodies are buried. I'm going to let this play out for another couple of years. Let him ride out his contract on the couch. Let him do TV gigs. Let him get further away from who we are and what we are. And we'll move on. I totally understand why the coaches I'm just going to call it the Coaches Association. I don't know what it is. I totally understand why they would be pissed. They are absolutely correct to be like, what the fuck is this? This isn't how this works. Vegas contractually is within their rights to do this. And I guess I'm in the rare boat of nobody's wrong. Like,
No.
they're okay. Cassidy should be fucking pissed. I think Vegas is being petty, but they can do this if they want to. And whatever the Coaches Association is can also be like, what the fuck is going on here? I think all of that's fine.
Yep. I have no problem with what anybody is doing here. I've never seen it before.
Neither have I.
And it is a little bizarre. And I wonder if, it feels like Kelly McCrimmon doing Kelly McCrimmon type things. Like he wasn't exactly great with Marc-Andre Fleury when Fleury walked out the door. So it feels like maybe, for all the shit Drew takes for how he treats people, feels like Kelly McCrimmon's probably not the best guy to work for in the NHL. But fine. And I totally get, I wouldn't want to have Bruce Cassidy with a chip on his shoulder going to coach the Edmonton Oilers or the LA Kings in my division and wanting to, chase the dragon with me in Vegas. So
Amazing South Park reference.
I try.
Yeah, I don't have the full list of people who have reached out for permission. Let's just pretend that the Rangers or if Pittsburgh had done this with Mike Sullivan, right? They fire him, whatever, they have him for a few more years. I would have totally understood if Pittsburgh was like, nope, can't go to the Rangers.
Yeah.
Sorry, you're in the division. Not go somewhere else. I don't even know if Toronto had reached out to them and they said no. It's like, all right, what are we doing here? You're mad about Mitch Marner? I get it. But I don't know. I respect it. Chip, I'm not going to fuck with my internet. I need you to read the questions this week.
Oh, shit. Well, you should have told me that before.
Why? You can't just go to blueshirtbanter.com where you can spend $85
a year
of your very easily earned money to read the website and the articles that we write.
By the way,
ask questions. Go ahead.
Another tie-in to episode 85. That is $85 a year.
You're right. $85 a year. Get you all your ad-free access to the New York Rangers.
Well, here's a question that we already answered. Do you think Bill Guerin regrets? And it's from me. So, do you think Bill Guerin regrets not trading for Trocheck? Do you think he would be willing to put Yurov on the table? Now we talk.
We did. We actually answered all the facets of that question.
We did. Let's go to 84 Jorts. Y'all forgot to do the randomly generated question, so here's one for this week. Who would be the best and worst Rangers from the 20 to 26 roster to be stuck on a deserted island?
Oh, okay. This is a good point, actually. So I should have led with this. We restarted the show twice last week because of how bad my internet was, which I don't understand because everything else was working fine. I honestly think it was a Riverside issue. I do like the idea, though, of somebody in the comments asking a crazy question for us to start off with. I do like that. All right. We may move forward with that. 84 Jorts. 84 Jorts?
84 Jorts.
84 Jorts. So
So
who from the Rangers last year, this year's team, would I least want to be on a deserted island with?
and who would you most want to be on a deserted island?
Least has to be JT Miller, right?
Oh, definitely.
He's just going to be mad the entire time. I'm not going to do things right. We're going to get into a fight. I'm going to get the shit kicked out of me. He's going to be screaming the whole time. No, absolutely. If he even speaks to me, absolutely not. JT Miller is absolutely the last person that I want to be on a deserted island.
Agreed.
The most, I feel like I have two cop-out answers. Adam Sikora and /or Matt Rempe, just for the vibes. Like, you'd just be having a good time.
So Heartbeat Harvey, in response to that question, says you have to. The best is Matt Rempe, so he can grab the coconuts.
Well, that was the other thing. I could use Rempe and his freakish strength and size to fucking kill animals for us to eat.
Right.
Like, he was hunting newts with Jonathan Quick's son. The man is adept at catching animals for food or fishing.
Yeah. No, I'm gonna go with Heartbeat Harvey's answer there, Rempe.
Yeah, I agree. I think.
Plus, I have to feel like Matt Rempe was probably a Boy Scout at one time or another. He can start a signal fire.
Do we think he was a Boy Scout?
He gives off Boy Scout vibes.
He kind of does give off Boy Scout vibes. Yeah, I don't think there's an answer better than Rempe if you want to survive. Like, if I knew I was being rescued in a week and I just need to hang out for a week, I don't know, Adam Fox, I'd never see him. We wouldn't talk to each other. It would be fine. We'd just like move on with our lives.
Correct. He would drink the coconut milk.
Correct. Adam Sikora would be like, it would get annoying over time how happy he was. And I'd be like, dude, we're going to fucking die. Like, I need you to lock in a little bit here. But outside of that, it's, Matt Rempe is kind of the only answer. You're 100% correct about this.
Yeah. All right. All right. If the Golden Knights win this is from State of Hockey. If the Golden Knights win the Stanley Cup, should Mitch Marner take a Cup victory lap around Scotiabank Arena?
You also kind of answered that question. He's from Toronto, correct? He has to bring it to Toronto, no?
He does.
There's no way he does not bring the Stanley Cup to Toronto.
I think he brings it to Toronto. I think
he's not bringing it to the arena, let's be honest, but I bet he brings it to Toronto.
But would be so awesome is if he goes on a golf outing with Austin Matthews and William Nylander with the cup.
And the cup is the fourth.
The cup is their fourth. It would warm my soul in so many ways. Question from Chip 23. I have many questions for myself, but that is an existential problem. And then
that wasn't even a question. That was a comment that you made that you just read out loud. What do you want? Claps? You got fucking up-dogged by your son today. I'm not clapping for you.
Listen, you asked me to read it, so you have to put up with it. Final question, also from 84 Jorts. My question for the end of the episode. If you were a Stanley Cup winning hockey player, what would your day with the cup be?
Oh, this is one of those rare questions that I wish I had time to think about. It's hard because, and sit down for this will surprise you. I'm not a professional hockey player. So, I have no ties to the professional hockey world. And what I mean by that is, go back to the Mitch Marner thing. He'll probably take it to his hometown rink in Toronto. Jonathan Quick took it to Hamden, right? Connecticut, a place that he played hockey that means something to him. You're asking me what I would do if I got a day with the Stanley Cup. I honestly have no idea.
I think you would take it to Disney.
Oh, I could take it to Disney. That's a good one.
You would put it on the rides with you. It would ride next to you on Space Mountain. It would be Joe in one seat, Cup in the other, and you're going through Space Mountain.
That would be great. I would absolutely go to sleep with the Stanley Cup in my bed. It's got to be awesome to wake up with the Stanley Cup next to you. How cool would that be?
So, is your wife sharing the space with you, or is she on the couch?
If she can fit on the other side of the Stanley Cup, that's fine. Right. But the cup is absolutely next to me.
So fine, you are willing to displace your wife for the Stanley Cup. I can respect that.
100,000%.
I respect that.
I don't know,
I
like
think
eat cereal out of it, drink out of it,
yeah,
you know.
yeah.
And I'll tell you what I won't do. I won't tear up the Madison Square Garden mortgage and piss out the fire in the cup. That I won't do.
No, no.
We've learned our lesson from that one. Then I'll
Yeah.
go back and ask, the guy's name is Phil something, right? The keeper of the cup.
Mm-hmm.
I'll ask Phil what the 94 Rangers did with the cup, and I won't do that as well. Whatever they did, I will also not do.
Right. I, I would have a nice laid back day with the cup.
Yeah, I don't want to go crazy. I just want to enjoy my time
No.
with it.
I
Stroke
just
it.
want to, I just want to walk around. Hey, it's me and my Stanley Cup. What you got going on? Oh, yeah, I'm here at Dairy Queen for a little blizzard and get one for my Stanley Cup.
Yeah, can you actually make the blizzard in the cup, please?
Ooh, I would eat a blizzard out of the
Yeah,
Stanley
you
Cup.
have to. You have to eat every meal you eat that day is eaten out of the cup. You'll be eating a lot of soup.
I gotta ask. If that's the rule, then don't you want to be the first person with the cup rather than the last person with
I
the cup?
assume they clean it.
I assume they do too, but let's be honest. I mean, it is silver.
Yeah,
It's
I'm
pretty easy
spraying
to
that
clean. It's
shit
not like
down to
wood.
be clear.
Yeah.
If I get it last, I am disinfecting that Stanley Cup.
Like imagine you got that cup after JT Miller, because JT Miller's just spitting his dip into that cup.
Probably. And
So,
starting like another curse.
yeah.
Yeah, I would absolutely disinfect it. I don't see any way that it's metal, so like you can disinfect it. It's fine. You're spraying Lysol in it and doing whatever. Phil takes good care of the cup, not our Phil, obviously, the keeper of the cup, Phil. So yeah, no, sorry. I'm not I'm not getting some weird disease because Matt Rempe caught a newt with it or something and like rubbed his ass in the cup or whatever it is. I'm not playing that game. Anyway,
You'd walk away from it saying "wolf pack" all the time.
Yeah, that would be Eric. Eric would go to like a linguistics class to learn how to say the word wolf with the Stanley Cup. And he would not be permitted to touch the cup until he saw it.
Do we think it's like when he goes to Great Wolf? Do you think it's Great Wolf?
Yes, it's just the way he says wolf. Which
Interesting.
has he not been mocked enough as a human being about this?
I don't know.
Wolf, WOLF. If it was the WOOOOOF pack, yes, that's the wolf pack. Fine. The wolf pack, wolf.
I look forward to Eric listening to this episode.
Well, he has to edit it. That's the best part.
Yeah, I know.
And whether he gets it at the beginning or the end, he's getting it both times.
Yeah.
So
the texts are going to be fun. It's going to be great.
Well, usually it's you texting us like middle fingers because you're annoyed at the things that we've said about you. Now it's Eric's turn. Maybe he'll do the chip and he'll just give us the middle finger because he's listening to the show and is now aware of the fact that we're mocking him. But
he has to listen to it when he edits it as opposed to when I listen to it, which is when I take my morning constitutional.
Okay, well, I listen to it on the car ride, and I take notes and criticize both of you constantly.
Excellent.
That's what I don't pay you for. I pay you no money for that. No job. Anyway, anything else to add, Chip, before we end the show?
No, I think we've done enough damage to the brand today.
An hour, 20 minutes for all of you. This is impressive, and 0 internet issues for me. Knock on wood. This was pleasant. Thank you all for being here. Thank you all for joining. Blueshirtbanter.com, $85 a year gets you all your ad-free access to the New York Rangers. $40 a year gets you access to our Discord tier, and you can ask questions in the question thread that we read every single week, that Eric puts up every single week, and in maybe moving forward, you guys can ask questions that start the show off for our random AI generated. Instead, it will be generated by our listeners. Spotify, Apple Podcasts, please leave 5 stars, leave a nice comment, talk about how amazing we are. It makes us happy. It's good for the algorithm. Twitter.com/BlueShirtBanter, Facebook.com/YouTube, Facebook.com/BlueShirtBanter, not YouTube. YouTube.com/BlueShirtBanter, BlueShirtBanter.com/ Blueshirt Bandwidth. Thank you all for being here. Thank you all for joining. We will see you next week. Bye for now.